how Trump won the negotiation war and higher education helped him do it. In February 2025, when President Trump and President Zelensky first sat down at the negotiation table, Trump didn't silence Zelensky out of arrogance or disdain. No, the silence was strategic. A power move straight out of Negotiation 101, a course that, based on recent history, apparently never made it into most liberal arts curriculums. Zelensky came to the table with Western backing, yes, but without US support, Ukraine's power was more perceived than actual. Trump? He knew something fundamental. Perceived power without real leverage is a dangerous illusion. So what did he do? He popped the balloon. Publicly, brutally, strategically. This played out in February 2025 when Trump took a hardline approach during pivotal international talks. He skipped the symbolic pleasantries and made one thing clear. Leverage, not loyalty, would dictate the terms. It wasn't pretty, but neither is war. And sometimes you don't negotiate peace with participation trophies. You do it by reminding everyone exactly where the power lies. From the outside, it looked like chaos. From the inside, it was a calculated insistence, nay, a tactic designed to force resolution fast. Some called it the Crazy Man Doctrine, the idea that if you act just unpredictable enough, everyone else starts second-guessing their own moves. But make no mistake, this wasn't chaos for chaos's sake. It was calculated, controlled, weaponized unpredictability. Trump understood something most political science professors overlook. Certainty makes people comfortable. Uncertainty makes them cautious. And caution in a negotiation is leverage. When you're the one who might flip the table mid-conversation, and your poker chips include the world's largest military and most powerful economy, people don't just pay attention. They recalibrate. Was it dangerous? Absolutely. But it was also a masterclass in psychological warfare, one not taught in textbooks, but forged in boardrooms, high-stakes deals, and raw instinct. It wasn't diplomatic in the traditional sense. It was disruptive. And it worked because it forced every player at the table to consider not just their position, but their survival. Where Trump failed home turf. But Trump's greatest negotiation failure wasn't with world leaders, it was with Congress. He tried using the same tactics domestically, a heavy hand, unpredictability, brute force strategy, and instead of unity, he got gridlock. Turns out, while strategic silence might shake international rivals, in Congress it just echoes back as viral soundbites and meme-worthy tantrums. And here's the twist, it's not entirely his fault. When your opposition learned conflict resolution from Tumblr threads and graduated magna cum protest from a university where critical thinking was replaced by curated emotional truth, negotiations were doomed from the start. You can't build compromise when both sides treat empathy as a debate tactic and logic as a microaggression. Turns out governing a republic is hard, especially when the national curriculum was quietly swapped out for symbolic outrage and theatrical dissent. But Trump's real missed opportunity? He failed to integrate popular liberal priorities into his own agenda, not a surrender, but a strategic absorption. And nowhere was this more obvious than immigration. He didn't need to embrace open borders. He didn't need to demonize everyone either. He just needed to say this. If you're here illegally, but have held a job, stayed out of trouble, and want to build a future in America, we'll find a path. But if you're here to take advantage of the system or evade accountability, look, you're out. That kind of distinction isn't weakness. It's strategic clarity. It says we reward effort and integrity, not abuse of the system. It doesn't excuse illegality. It prioritizes outcomes. Imagine reframing immigration enforcement not as mass deportation, but as a national merit filter. Support those building something, reject those actively breaking it. Instead, he treated all undocumented immigrants as a single threat, and in doing so, handed Democrats the moral high ground and lost an opportunity to rally centrists around common sense enforcement. Because the truth is, America was never about purity, it was about potential. We've always made room for those who build, not break. Contribute, not consume, and if we're honest, we're all immigrants at one time or another. No one started here, not even Native Americans. They migrated too, across land bridges in time, chasing survival just like everyone else. What makes a nation strong isn't who got here first, it's what we choose to build together once we arrive. So where does higher education fit in? Ah yes, the Ivory Towers, once respected institutions teaching negotiation, leadership, and reasoned debate. Now, many of them prioritize performance over proficiency. Instead of sharpening strategic reasoning, students often graduate fluent in verbal gymnastics but untrained in real-world logic. Courses that once centered on civics and public administration now lean heavily into identity, narratives, and subjective truths. The result? A growing academic culture that affirms personal perspectives but sidesteps the uncomfortable rigor of genuine debate. We're producing lawmakers who conflate dissent with harm and slogans with strategy. And here's the irony. The vast majority of our lawmakers have degrees. According to the Congressional Research Service, nearly 95% of House and Senate members hold at least a bachelor's degree, and many possess advanced degrees, most commonly in law, political science, business, or public policy. Yet, despite their academic credentials, few of these programs focus meaningfully on core leadership disciplines like conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, and negotiation strategy. They excel at teaching policy theory and legal frameworks, but often neglect the human dynamics that define real-world governance. The result? A chamber full of hyper-educated individuals with minimal training in how to lead, persuade, or unify. Just enough knowledge to grandstand, but not enough to govern. Because while education was once a gateway to wisdom, it has too often become a credentialed echo chamber, producing polished rhetoric, but very little real-world resilience. If our future leaders were educated in actual strategy instead of theater-driven sensitivity, we might have fewer protest paddles in Congress and more productive debate. You can't negotiate peace if you don't understand conflict, and unfortunately we're pumping out graduates who couldn't identify a leverage play if it hit them with a whiteboard. The protest heard round the chamber. During Trump's address to Congress after the Ukraine summit, the chamber resembled less a place of governance and more a civics class gone sideways. All emotion, no script, and plenty of cardboard. Signs flailed, hashtags floated like confetti. Everyone brought indignation but forgot their homework. It wasn't a protest against policy, it was a protest against personality. Democrats treated Congress like a theater stage, but one where debate was replaced by protest, and grades were based on symbolism, not substance. It felt less like a chamber of lawmakers and more like a silent civics seminar, where symbolism took the podium and substance never made the syllabus. But beyond the theatrics lies a deeper consequence, not just for decorum, but for representation. One member was formally censured for participating in the chamber protest, a rare and serious disciplinary action that carries more than symbolic weight. For that representative's constituents, the message is chilling. When a representative is silenced, so is their district's voice. Censure doesn't just affect a politician, it affects the people who sent them. It tells voters, your voice matters, but only when it aligns with acceptable messaging. That's not just political theater, that's a challenge to the democratic process itself. If Americans begin to believe their voice is only respected when it's convenient to the establishment, the real damage won't be to decorum, it'll be to democracy. Final thought. Enough with the political theater. To our lawmakers, stop treating public office like a reality show audition. We don't need more posturing. We need problem solving. Americans are tired of show votes, of shouting matches, of watching elected officials cosplay as rival high school cliques while the country burns. So here's the call to action. Get back to the table. Put the protest paddles away. Drop the rehearsed outrage. Start rehearsing solutions. This isn't about winning the news cycle. It's about governing for everyone. Red, blue, or somewhere in between. Your job isn't to protect your ego, it's to represent us. So either work together, think critically, negotiate honestly, or kindly step aside for those who will. Because America doesn't need another viral moment, it needs leadership,